Hello, this is Dave Hammer, an amateur blacksmith with some experience I'd like to share with you. This is the third video in a series of videos about building propane forges. I've been building my own propane forges for years. In this video, we'll show you how I initially and until fairly recently lined my forges. Please heed these warnings and take them seriously. This is what I consider a simple forge. Just a round body with a burner tube hole. Please use personal protection when you're handling thermal blanket. A mask, gloves, and eye protection should be used. Thermal blanket comes in 24-inch widths. Measure and cut two pieces off the length of the forge. This forge is 9 inches long. I use a metal yardstick and a linoleum knife to cut this stuff. You can also cut it with a scissors, large scissors, or a tin snips if you need an unusual shape. Next, we install the first layer of the blanket. 24 inches is just the right length to get a tight fit in this size cylinder. The inside diameter of the cylinder is 8.5 inches. That seam actually should be on the bottom. It's a tight fit, but you keep wrangling it, warp it in there. Press it in all around. This type of forge, on this type of forge, the thermal blanket will hold itself in the way we put it in. It doesn't have to be glued in, or it doesn't have to be held in by mechanical means. The simplest floor is a hard fire brick. This one is 1.25 inches thick. There are much better floors, but this will work. You should look for a brick that's good to 3,000 degrees for this. A little thinner would even be better. It would heat up faster. We measure and we put in a second layer. It goes from the side of the floor to the other side of the floor. Pack it in. Be sure this is not too short. You want it to be tight. If you build a more complex forge, you'll need to use some additional methods to hold in the thermal blanket. If you look above that horizontal opening, you can see staples. To make those staples, this is just an example. Obviously, I'm not drilling in a forge body here, but showing you how I do it. Just drill a couple holes, sets of holes, a couple inches apart. I use nichrome wire to make staples. It says 10 inches there, probably 12 is better if your holes are 2 inches apart. That'll give you 2 inches to bend over in the inside. Bend the wire, measure and bend the wire into the shape of a staple so it slides into the holes. You might want to make those ends of that staple pointed. Holding the blanket up against the forge body from the inside, push the staple in. and use pliers of some kind. This is a needle nose to, I'll cut that one off a little bit. But basically I just use a needle nose pliers to straddle the wire, push it down just a little bit and bend it over on the inside. This isn't always going to be easy, but you'll figure it out. Then that'll hold your blanket in it. This is the way that I did this for many, many years. Our next step is to cut through the thermal blanket so we can get the burner in. We're cutting a burner hole. Use a long thin knife and hold it as straight up and down as you can, working around and around until you get that plug out of there. This has to be a clean hole. Takes a while to do it. Some of the time there's edited out, but you can see I got a clean hole. Next we install the burner. This is a burner that I made. The burn chamber in this forge is well under 200 cubic inches. This burner will handle that easily and more. If you're making your first forge, make it small. Don't make a large forge. Don't go get a 5-gallon tin or something and make a forge out of it. It's much more than you would need. There'll be a subsequent video that talks about sizes and things like that, floors and doors. Seal around that burner tube with thermal blanket. We don't want air coming out of there. Since this is a simple forge, it's not going to have doors that slide or swing open. We're just going to use hard fire brick for the doors. And this part of the video is going to show you how to cut those if you decide you need to. Masonry blades don't work very well, so you need to go get a diamond blade for your cutoff saw, for your angle grinder, for your angle grinder. These are a little pricey, but they're worth the price. Mark that around. Use safety equipment. This is going to generate a lot of dust, and you don't want to be breathing that dust. Just take the saw, get a good hold on it, score it all the way around, and take your score down to about 3/8 or half an inch. But score it all the way around first. Just go easy. Actually cuts it pretty easily. If you have a good masonry saw, a commercial masonry saw or wet saw, you can cut these with that also with water, and it's actually safer. Score that down a ways, that will break fairly clean. If you want to clean it up a little bit more, you just take your angle grinder again and drag that across there. Works best by dragging it towards you, pulling it. If you push it, it'll try to dig in. I've moved the forge over onto a different metal table, and I just stack the brick up to work as doors. The back side I just close off for this demonstration. It could be left open like the front is, or a little bit more, a little bit less. Put that in there. We have a functioning forge right now. Hook up the propane. I use quick connects because I'm working with different forges for different projects. Close the shut-off valve. Use a setup like I showed in the build a propane burner video. You can light this forge by either tossing a match in, which I normally do, or use a torch like that. That's a little safer. I usually just throw a lit match in as it's lighting while I open that shutoff valve. Open the needle valve just a little bit. We want to warm up 15-20 pounds. We're going to do 3 projects. We're going to use 1/4-inch rod, 3/8 rod, and then some round rod. We're gonna make a small scroll, a little leaf, and we're gonna do some forge welding. This is the entire time you're seeing here it takes to heat that small rod. Using 1/4-inch rod is pretty common for new blacksmiths. It's got heat already. It takes actually takes less than 40 seconds to heat this size rod up to forging temperature. There we go. All I'm going to do is taper that a little bit and roll a small scroll just to show you. Misspelled the word attain there, I see. I did let the forge heat up. The brightness of that forge, it's a little exaggerated because it's fooling the camera. The insulation is containing the heat in the burn chamber. It looks like the insulation is white hot, and it is hot, but not as hot as it looks. You could put another brick on top of those too, if you wish. Just set it up there. You could cut those a little shorter. Just keep working on this scroll. I didn't practice this, so I could have done it quicker if I had. That's our little scroll. Next is to heat up a 3/8 square rod. I don't show the whole heat time on this. It's not much longer than the other rod, but it obviously is going to be a little bit. There's more mass there. We're going to make a little leaf. First we're going to point it. Heat it up a little more. The forges that I use all the time are Super C forges, and I like those because I put them on a pedestal and the doors slide and I can just roll them out of the way. Isolate the body of the leaf. I'm building a taper back toward me. These are half face blows where the hammer hits half on the anvil and half off. Refine that taper a little bit. And pull the rod back onto pull the leaf body back onto the anvil, and on the diamond forge the leaf, just pushing it down. I'm going to cut that off, so I put a hot cut in. I'll use a different hammer. I don't like to use my forging hammer when I cut. This was actually my dad's hammer. He was not a blacksmith. Be very careful we put hot things. Heat it up again and draw out the stem. There's the fruit of our efforts. Next, we're going to forge weld two 5/16 round bars together. I don't do any preparation on these bars. This demonstration is just to show that this forge is hot enough to forge weld. I'm not real good at forge welding. I can do this kind, but beyond telling you that it forge welds, everything else is technique. These burners are unbelievably hot, and this forge, even lined this way, gets hot enough. Lined better and with a better floor, actually it heats up faster and actually works better. It's hot enough there. Probably a couple hits is all I would have really needed to do. This is just to stick it and put it back in and let it soak more. Excuse me. I'm going to forge this end, which was two doubles or two 5/16 rods. I'm going to forge that down to a diameter smaller than one of the rods, just to show that the forge weld is good, has integrity. Pull that apart. Just hit it a little bit more. I'm still tapering it. You shut the propane off. You can see that the heat is retained in that burn chamber. It takes a while for that to cool down. We'll let that cool. There you go. Actually, I quenched that probably from 500 or 600 degrees, which you should never really do to a forge weld. But I wanted to finish the video with taping. Next, lining the Super C forge will show you how to add a hard reflective coating on this type of lining. That video will be out the same day as this one. Thanks for watching.